Okay, final call to join our technical session 1, where you'll be hearing about the outcomes of the work of the Investors Dialogue for Energy working groups. Thank you everybody as well for attending the session. My name is Tsvetelina. I'm part of the Investors Dialogue for Energy team, and I have the pleasure of leading, moderating, or supporting some of the working groups which are organized in the context of this great initiative of the European Commission. So for this session, we've prepared for you an update of some of the work that has taken place since our last plenary session in January. We've been very busy with the working group members. I'm sure they'll all confirm. We've had plenty of meetings, plenty of exchanges, plenty of collaboration and dialogue, as the name suggests, which has already generated some very interesting ideas and inputs in line with our mandate. Maybe just a brief reminder for those of you who are new to the Investors Dialogue for Energy. As you know, we have 5 working groups which are organized along each segment of the value chain for the energy sector that we are exploring. And in each working group we have about 30 members which represent public or private finance institutions, public sector organizations, non-governmental stakeholders, but very importantly, industry representatives. So these are the companies, utilities, startups who are doing, the bulk of the work when it comes to moving our energy transition in the European Union forward. And this year we actually launched a new round of applications for working group membership in order to expand a bit the number of members per working group. We did that in order to enrich further the discussions which are taking place in our regular meetings and to get further insights representing the geographical, economic diversity that we face across the EU when it comes to resolving some of the main issues around energy transition. So you can see here on the slide some of the names of the organizations which were not members of the initiative before or which joined additional working groups to those that they were already participating in. So welcome on board again to all the new members. Very happy to have you with us, and already we have started seeing some very interesting input coming from those new members, which is always a good sign about their quick integration. Now, a quick update on what we have been working on so far. Altogether, we've had 45 different working group meetings, which is a lot, and they have covered a vast range of topics. I mean, you'll hear more, of course, on this from the working group representatives themselves, but just to give you some highlights, we've looked at the specificities of how to apply different financial instruments in the different segments of the energy value chain, how to improve the offering of such financial instruments going forward, and specifically, we've worked on the recommendations for some new or improved financial instruments, something that we'll continue doing in the months to come. And again, you'll hear a bit more about this from the representatives themselves. I should also mention that we've started to see this direct impact of our work as an initiative on policy initiatives at EU level. So already input from the working groups was used in the Commission's storage working document, which was published last year. And we've been asked to also contribute to the operationalization of the Grid Action Plan, Heat Pump Action Plan, and the Wind Energy Action Plan. So some of this work is already ongoing, and for others, we'll cover it in the coming sessions of the working group meetings. Until the end of this initiative, in principle, we can have up to 55 more working group meetings, so in case anybody was concerned. Well, of course, we always need to make sure that we are having meetings at the right moment and on the right topics, but in principle, there is still a lot of dialogue, still a lot of exchange, and we certainly look forward to it. I hope it's the case as well on your side. But without further ado, I would like to hand over to our working group representatives who've taken the initiative to represent their working groups to us today. So we'll start in order of how the working groups are arranged. But the first one is on energy production. And for working group 1, I have the pleasure of inviting Sofia Barbosa, who will tell us about the work that has taken place in the past year. Sofia, over to you.
So, sorry, Tsvetelina, I think I need half. So it's just this one. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Sofia Barbosa from GreenVolt. And GreenVolt is a 100% renewables company which operates across three business segments. So we operate in the sustainable biomass business. We have biomass power plants in Portugal and in the UK. We are also developers of utility-scale solar, wind, and storage projects with a pipeline of 7.7 gigawatts in 14 European countries. And last but not least, we are also targeting the distributed generation segment, where we offer one-stop shop solutions for the financing, installation, and operation of solar PV for individual self-consumption, but also for energy sharing solutions. So today I have the pleasure to give you a few highlights on what has been discussed in the energy group, mostly in the last year. So first of all, it is well acknowledged that we need to accelerate renewables, and both in mature and innovative technologies. So today we almost need to double our renewables share to meet the 2030 42.5 renewables target. If we talk about solar and wind, installed capacities need to almost triple up to 2030. And of course, we also need emerging technologies to be scaled up in order to decarbonize those more hard to decarbonize sectors, those which cannot be electrified. So in the first sessions of the working group, we looked at the various barriers, and now we can make a more general assessment of how financial instruments can help boost investment. And what we see is that depending on the maturity, the investment barriers, but also very importantly, the country of deployment, the financing solutions will be different. And here, I think it is worth remarking that we have to pay attention that those countries which have a higher renewables investment gap, we have to ensure that indeed they have a pool of diversified instruments to help tap into renewables investments. We also looked at the features that make technology instruments effective, and it came out as a good practice, technology neutrality. So we should not discriminate any renewables technologies. However, it has also been considered that for certain key technologies, some which might contribute to important policy objectives, or where we have to address a specific barrier, maybe we can have exceptions to have dedicated instruments. But most of all, now, what we are now discussing at the working groups is de-risking instruments, as they can indeed play a role in boosting renewables investments. And here again, we need to differentiate between those new and emerging technologies, which the main barrier is the access and availability to finance. So we need to de-risk the risk profile of these investments, so public support instruments will be needed, grants, equity type of instruments, and guarantees will be particularly important to ensure bankability, to attract the private investment to also invest in these value chains, and so to spur the large-scale deployment of more innovative technologies. The second, for more established technologies, we are now working in a pilot instrument. So basically, what we want to assure is increase the access to medium and long-term stable revenue streams. So you are well aware that renewables investments are high capital intensive. they face high upfront costs, and so it is critical for the investments to go forward to have visibility on the long-term revenues. Power purchase agreements, corporate power purchase agreements, can be an effective tool to provide that. However, today they face some barriers. Well, the market, the PPA market, is mostly accessed by large off-takers. Since financial institutions, they are not willing to finance a renewables project with a PPA if the off-taker of the PPA does not have investment grade, or else they will demand very high collateral requirements. And so the idea here that we are thinking of is having a pilot instrument, possibly a guarantee, to reduce the off-taker risk. And so moving to 2030, we see that there might be a huge demand for more corporate PPA deployments. The market today should try to address the issue that medium and small off-takers, which are the majority of the European countries, they cannot access this market. And so we are looking at a pilot in order to enable this corporate PPA market to increase and which can contribute with this long-term revenue certainty. So we will continue our discussions in the working group, and we will, in the end, make some recommendations for the Commission. Okay, so that would be on my side. This is the state of play right now. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we can continue with Vincent Thouvenin, who is going to present Working Group 2, Transmission and Distribution.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So I'm here to talk about the outcome and the work done in Working Group 2, which is dedicated to transmission and distribution in electricity and gas. I'm representing ENSO A, so more the electricity side, I have to admit. I'm coming from the French transmission and system operator RTE, so excuse me for my accent. The first message is for the Working Group 2. It's about the challenges that are faced by the sector of the grids due to different challenges, but the most accurate one is to accommodate a growing share of renewable energy on the system, on the grids. So you have on the slide a few figures coming from the new action plan that the Commission has released late November. About the investment in the grids, more than around 60 billion in the next decade for electricity grids, transmission and distributions, and each time we actualize the figures we get into higher levels, so it will be certainly more than that next time we have new figures. And so we have also to remind that 40% of the distribution grid has to be modernized in also the same timing, same for the transmission grids. Another point is that our sector, the grid sector, is characterized by a peculiar business environment that is almost fully regulated. Most operations are into the regulated model, and only residual share is run through a merchant model. So that's also have consequences on the financial solution we may think about. A key point is relations with national regulatory frameworks and the EU schemes to support the investment so that they ensure the attractiveness of the grid operators. That's the first challenge to keep to be attractive on the capital markets, to finance our investment programs, and support anticipatory investments with a higher risk profile than usual. There's also the role of EU and other public support schemes, maybe at national level. It's about guarantees, blended finance windows, and so on, so that we can keep our regulated WACC, the financial WACC at affordable level, I would say, for the grid users, because it has high consequences on the bills. Of course, this EU supporting schemes should also be accessible by the merchant operators at transmission and distribution level. And I would also add, building on the previous presentation, that one of the issues is also about our supply chain for the electricity grids in the EU and how to strengthen it. Then where do we stay with this working group thinking and actions? We are trying, of course, to develop concrete recommendations to foster investment in our grids. And we have, in the past months, studied barriers to investment in the grids, financing models, guarantees, equity issue, and blended finance. This last item, is chosen as a pilot scheme by the group. Supporting instruments like blended finance can play a crucial role in transmission and distributed by leveraging access to financing sources, mainly debt, for one particular project. It's also attracting third-party investor in order to crowd in private investment, and also enabling access to low-cost capital detained by low-risk investors, as already mentioned previously. Local and small operators in transmission and distribution business may experience difficulties in making use of financial instruments, elaborate financing instruments, due to lack of skills and expertise in this domain. So an important point also is to provide technical assistance to these players, and concerning project design, project bankability, drafting of relevant documentation as well. So we will work on that in the coming working group meetings around these first pilot schemes on blended finance. But I also have to mention that we welcome the new mandates coming from the new grid action plans released by the Commission, which is a promising step to better address the link between regulation and financing of grid investment in collaboration with regulators and also credit rating agencies. This will be the end of my intervention. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Vincent. And now I can welcome on stage Felice Simonelli, who is going to represent Working Group 3 on energy storage. Felice, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tsvetelina, and good morning, everyone. I would like to start by thanking the European Commission for arranging this plenary meeting, of course, I would also like to thank the PwC team for keeping the Investor Dialogue on Energy up and running. My name is Felice Simonelli. I'm the head of EU policy at Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, the Italian national promotional institution. We are one of the largest Italian financial institutions with more than 400 billion assets under management. However, today, I will not share with you my views, nor the one of my organization, but I'm speaking as a member of the steering committee of the Investors Dialogue on Energy. So in the next 5 minutes, hopefully, I will be able to share with you the main findings of the working group on energy storage. I would like to start by stating something that might be very obvious and familiar for all of you. Energy storage solutions play a crucial role in the current, but more importantly, in future energy systems, and especially in achieving the European energy and climate goals. Energy storage will help, for instance, integrate renewable energy sources in the grid by providing system flexibility. They will also contribute to optimizing the energy consumption, especially behind the meter, and also to integrate the electricity with other energy segments, gas, heating and cooling, mobility. For me, these two graphs are quite emblematic because they show the need for an exponential increase in storage capacity to achieve net zero. According to the International Energy Agency, on a global scale, storage capacity provided only by batteries should go from 45 gigawatts in 2022 to over 4,000 gigawatts in 2050. This is a 100 times increase. For Europe, the Commission estimates that we should go from 60 gigawatts installed in 2022 to 600 gigawatts in 2050, But it's important to stress that out of these 60 gigawatts, most of it is pumped hydro, so not so easy to increase. So the largest share of the increase should come from other storage technologies. To the best of my knowledge, there is no accurate estimate of the investments needed to scale up the storage capacity. However, last year we saw that the Commission estimated before the energy crisis 300 billion investment only up to 2030. So the figure must be well above 300 billion euro to achieve this transition. I would like now to focus on the outcome of our work in the investors' dialogue on energy, where we are working very hard to understand how to bridge this major investment gap. So I would like to go back to 2022 when we started our work. In that year, we focused mostly on the barriers to investments and on solutions to lift these barriers. And we drew up some recommendations to ensure that investment are properly enabled by the EU and national regulatory frameworks. And we were very happy to see that many of our recommendations were considered by the Commission when preparing both the Commission recommendation on energy storage and the proposal for a regulation on the new electricity market design. Just to give you a couple of examples, when we look at the Commission recommendation on energy storage, member states are now requested to identify financing gaps, to ensure sufficient remuneration for energy storage services, and also they should consider introducing financing instruments that are specifically targeted to energy storage. These were some of our recommendations, and now are in a new European official document. If we look at the electricity market design regulation, we can see that non-fossil flexibility is very prominent there, and this is one of the key features that storage technologies bring to the power sector. So there will be a more central role, even in a new piece of legislation, for energy storage. This is indeed great news for the energy storage sector. Against this background, in 2023, we focused most of our efforts on understanding which financial instruments can foster investment in energy storage technologies and in energy storage capacity. So we did a number of deep dives focusing on specific financial instruments. We looked at guarantees, and we have also heard this morning from the first panel that guarantees may play really a very important role to crowd in private investment in energy storage projects, because they help reduce the cost of capital and the risk profile of these projects. So in a nutshell, financial institution will be able, thanks to guarantee, to provide loans, maybe to provide larger loans, and also cheaper loans, which is not bad for the sector. Some participants of the Investors Dialogue on Energy asked for the creation of a pan-European guarantee for energy storage. This is quite an attractive project because it would allow basically to mutualize the risk of stemming from several storage projects across the entire continent. And this would increase the bankability of such projects. We also focused on green bonds. So green bonds apparently are underutilized in the energy storage sector. Why? Because usually, to issue a bond, you need to be a big company with large investment needs. Most of the energy storage companies are not so big, so they don't have the investment size to issue such type of bonds. However, we discussed the opportunity maybe to think about green basket bonds. So basically, this would allow a single issuance from multiple smaller companies, which would share the costs, but also the proceeds of the bond. And on the investor side, bondholders would be exposed to a lower degree of risk, thanks to the presence of multiple companies in the bond structure. So this is something on which we might reflect a bit better and more this year. We also focused on blended finance, and we all agreed that storage infrastructure would benefit from a combination of public grants and loans from financial institutions. In this context, we had several meetings, but also one of these horizontal meetings presenting the alternative fuel infrastructure facility that the Commission is implementing under the Connecting Europe Facility for Transport. And this was considered really a best practice that should be replicated also in the energy storage sector. Of course, we also focused on equity instruments, which seems to be crucial for the most innovative technologies because startups, scale up, the most innovative companies are really seeking for equity investment. Therefore, we decided also to focus on a pilot scheme on equity. We are still working to identify the best feature of this scheme. We are still unsure if this should be a direct fund or a fund of funds. We might need also to support this kind of fund with the technical assistance, not only for the companies, but also for the investors and the fund managers, because the energy storage is still less known than other more mature segment of the energy system. And hopefully this year we will be able to provide some recommendation to the Commission for an equity fund investing in long-duration energy storage technologies. As you can see, this was a quite effective but challenging year for the working group on energy storage. We are aware that much more needs to be done to unlock the full potential of energy storage in Europe, and we stand ready to cooperate with the European Commission to make sure that enough investment will flow into the sector to accelerate the energy transformation and achieve net zero. In this respect, we are really looking forward for the midterm evaluation of the European funding programs, because we believe that this could be a good chance to provide recommendation to the Commission for the next MFF to make sure that EU funding programs will respond better and faster to market needs. Thank you for your time, and the floor is back to you, Tsvetelina.
Thank you so, Felice. Now, Rodrigo Sousa will tell us about the work of Working Group 4 on heating and cooling. Rodrigo, over to you.
Thank you. So, good morning to everybody. Thank you for the organizers to invite us and express all the work we have been done seriously during more than one year and a half. Rodrigo Sousa, I represent Eurelectric in Working Group 4, Heating and Cooling, and I work for Iberdrola, the Spanish-based utility. Doesn't work. Oh no, this is the pointer. Oh, does it work? Okay, that's it. So today, very briefly, I want to bring you three important takeaways of our discussions. The first one is regarding the numbers of heat and cooling. So think that 50% of all energy demand in the EU is devoted to heat, and less than 30% is related to renewable consumption. As you can imagine, the big bulk of emissions in heat is a bit below 50%, is 40%. But we have two very good news. The first one is that we have the technical approaches to afford deep reduction in energy demand and increase the share of renewables in heat. And this technical solution is, and very promising for the future, is heat pumps. The second good news is that the size of our opportunity is enormous. So we had in our working group very high expectations on the longly announced heat pump action plan for this year. The second takeaway I want to bring you is our reflection on what is the market of heating. And here the main conclusion is the diversity. You have in a very simplistic way two large items in this market. From one side, the low-scale operations, which are mainly residentials, communities, which their simplicity is the most important issue, with great focus on personal assessment and the efficient management of the grants. In another side of the market, we have the large-scale operations with district heating, district heating, municipalities, industries, in which you require tailorized approach, and you have room for innovative solutions, innovative technical solutions, and more sophisticated financial, so structured products, just to afford these kind of solutions. Transversal to all this, you have the guarantees. I will not extend too much on this, but guarantees all around these operations, both small size and large scale, are necessary to de-risk, again, to make operations with affordable costs and attract new capital for there. And this steps into our third takeaway, which is part of our ongoing discussion to build a pilot on heat pump financing, which ends into two important messages. One about innovative building models and alternative financial schemes. The innovative building models try to respond to the need of slicing the capex cost, which require normally heat pump investment in a location. This is evident for a residential, a community, but also for any kind of potential investor in heat pumps. And also the way of how to provide support and efficient operations and excellent and efficient operations during the lifetime of the asset. And in a second time, the alternative financial ways to provide sufficient support, attracting new capital for this sector, and making the best and the most efficient way to revolve and attend all the needs of these operations. And this is basically the messages we wanted to bring you, the three takeaways. And we keep high expectations on a prompt adoption of the heat pump action plan from the Commission. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo. Now, the last working group is on services and prosumers, and here I invite Jan Osenberg to share some of the outcomes of the work in the past year. Jan?
Thank you very much, Tsvetelina. What we found in the services and prosumers working group is that it's not only about the sum of investments, but it's actually about the diversity and finding the right tools to deploy financing instruments. We see that member states predominantly use grants today in the majority of member states. And we are now looking into de-risking schemes and technical facilities to address counterparty risks, but also to address the longer payback times that you have in these small-scale segments compared to traditional business investments for the segment. My name is Jan Osenberg. I represent Solar Power Europe, the industry association for the solar sector. So when we look at the services and prosumers segment, it's pretty clear that it's a quite broad segment. So it covers heat pumps, it covers solar panels, it covers small-scale batteries, It covers flexibility, both commercial and industrial, but also aggregation, covers energy as a service, energy sharing, energy communities. It's really a huge diversity of tools, which of course all have different needs. And you need a diversity of instruments to address the specific use cases of each technology. We already looked at a number of instruments today. Essentially, they are pretty similar in our segment. But in this segment in particular, there are two issues that have to be addressed. One is the upfront costs for the consumer. For a consumer, a solar installation or a battery can quickly go to 20,000, 30,000 euros, which is, of course, quite a sum to tackle. And the second thing that we have to tackle are the financing costs. Interest rates are high. These investments are often perceived as risky, which, of course, drives the payments in the long term. Given that 50% of the markets today still rely on grants, we now have to look at more innovative solutions. One solution that we see as particularly promising are energy as a service companies. Already in the US and in Australia, these solutions are really the predominant solutions. In the US, 90% of the solar market is actually addressed by energy as a service companies. How it works is that there is a local installer which works with a government bank or a private bank, which basically gives the customers a loan, lowering all upfront costs, reducing the upfront costs for the individual customer, and making it really easy, not only for the wealthy and well-informed citizens, but really for the bigger market to adopt these technologies. The second advantage is that energy as a service companies have the technical know-how to deploy these solutions. For citizens, it's often hard to assess, do I need a battery? Does it make sense to get the heat pump right away? Should I maybe get an EV charging infrastructure to go with it? And an energy as a service company, they cover all these questions, they consult the citizens, and it's really simple for them to get on board. However, with energy as a service companies, we also have some difficulties. The predominant difficulty is that banks still perceive prosumer models as too risky. Therefore, for some energy as a service companies, it can be difficult to access finance. For the larger ones, such as the really big companies that we already see in the German market, it's getting a little bit easier, but especially for the medium-sized one, it's quite a challenge. Second issue that we see is it's difficult to reach a sizable loan size to be actually able to talk to financing institutions to give you the investment that you need. The third problem with energy as a service company is that the projects have longer payback times than a traditional investment for a company, which maybe ranges from 3 to 5 years, and the banks expect an equivalent payback time. But for a solar installation, it can quickly go to 10 years, especially in the northern part of Europe. So here is a problem for traditional financing tools in these business models. The second problem, the second, let's say, bigger problem next to energy as a service companies that we see is that many of these companies, be it a small DSO, but be also maybe a commercial bank that wants to expand into the segment, they lack the financial and the technical skills to assess these solutions. They don't necessarily know how risky is it that you have a solar panel with a battery. Does it make sense with the west-facing, with the north-facing, north-facing roof? These are questions they don't necessarily know an answer to. So technical facilities can play a big role in solving this issue. So among the solutions, I see I should have advanced quite a lot earlier. So among the solutions that we are discussing are technical assistance facilities, which can address the technology problems. What is the battery? What kind of battery do you want? What kind of solar panels? What kind of inverter? They can address questions about support schemes. What is a feed-in tariff? What are the upfront costs? They can maybe differ between different regions in a country. These are all questions that they can answer, but they can also provide assistance on financing solutions. So that's the first one, technical assistance. Second one is guarantees and loans with shared risks. These guarantees and loans with shared risks can be issued, for example, by government agencies. also to individual customers, to energy communities, renewable energy communities, citizens energy communities, but also to portfolios of devices. What's important to note here is that with guarantees and loans with shared risks, they have to also be able to go to energy as a service companies and not only to banks who then target the individual customer, which sort of lose the advantage of going through the facilitator of the energy as a service company. The third solution that we see, and where we're also working on a pilot to develop this further, are de-risking schemes to limit the counterparty risks for energy as a service company to de-risk portfolios of assets. So as an energy as a service company, of course, you maybe have, let's say, 1,000 solar installations across an entire region, and you can use this diversity of assets to secure the investment. So here, such de-risking schemes can be offered by national promotional banks and institutions, such as the ones that are supported by the EIB. That is one option, but the other option is also to go via green bonds. So these companies often are able to issue bonds, and if you have advantageous financing solutions, such as green bonds, this can be a solution to lower the financing costs. With that, I would like to take up the recommendations that I've heard before to address these solutions that we are already discussing in the upcoming revision of the MFF, but also in all the action plans that the Commission is going to put forward. Thank you very much for the Commission for initiating this dialogue. I look forward to all questions, to all comments on the solutions that we have, but also to new ideas from you, from the participants.
Thank you, Jan. Indeed, we have about 15 minutes available for follow-up questions. So if anybody here in the audience would like to find out more about the work of any of the working groups, or if you have a question to them about what's to come, feel free to raise your hand and my colleague Giovanni will pass you the microphone. I see interest here. First was the lady in the back, and also to our online participants. If you have any questions, feel free to share those via the Q&A platform. I'm keeping an eye here on any questions that come through. Thank you, and please introduce yourself as well when you pose a question.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ludovica Drienzi. I'm an Italian lawyer working on energy communities, and we are based in Rome. And so energy communities is an increasing market, and I'm really curious. I have a question for Mr. John Osenberg. So sorry for the right pronunciation. And what's the stage of the market? How is the market responding to energy communities legislation? Because in Italy we struggle with, the right implementation, because it's kind of complicated to create, a sharing of incentives proposed by European Union. So thank you.
Thanks for the question. So energy communities develop quite differently across Europe. So for example, in the Netherlands, we are seeing that it's almost at the saturation stage. So the framework is really well advanced, and what even the people from REPowerEU, they say is that we just don't see any more demand from citizens to go into energy communities in the Netherlands. But that's the exception, unfortunately. So there are a lot of other countries where there are more barriers towards the implementation, towards the permitting of an energy community, of course also financing, but then also the all the administrative procedures. You have to communicate to the public, to your regional government. You have to communicate to the grid operator. There are really a number of administrative barriers, and these are really important things that have to be addressed. And we've seen quite some interesting solutions on energy communities, really template solutions that can be downloaded by a citizen who was interested in founding an energy community with a group of neighbors, for example. They can download these templates to talk to their regional governments, but also we see regional governments really wanting to push energy communities as a solution to foster also involvement of citizens, to foster the empowerment of citizens that really goes beyond what we see with a traditional solar installation. Does that answer the question?
Well, maybe I can also point out that we do have a session which is about energy in a local context at the end of today's plenary. So there we will also have a chance to dive deeper into the topic of energy communities, and we'll have also some presenters of energy communities who maybe can also share their personal experience on that point. Thank you very much, Jan, for the answer. I saw one more question over here and then one more in the back.
Thank you very much. Pedro Diaz from Solid Europe. So I will address two working groups, so if possible, starting with Felice Simonelli. So regarding the storage part, did you look into differences between different storage models? Because you referred batteries, you also referred the European example where there is a lot of hydro. Did you look also thermal storage and if it represents different challenges in terms of financing and so on? And the next question is on heating and cooling for Rodrigo Sousa. So the last example, the last slide you showed was a bit focused on heat pumps, but I think in the working group you were looking into different technologies. I hope so also for solar thermal and geothermal. And this relates with the question that was done earlier by my colleague from geothermal, Sanjeev. On the analysis for the small scale, you have included project aggregation as one of the needs. But we also see a similar issue with the large scale. So when we talk about providing heat for industry, that these projects are not big enough. So they are big enough in terms of investment, and we may be talking 1 to 5 million euros, but not big enough in terms of when we talk of addressing investment funds and so on. So we also see there that the demand aggregation could be a possibility to address a larger number of projects and distributing the risk of these applications. So I don't know if you went into this kind of discussion or if you would have any feedback on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. Well, Felice, maybe we can start with you, if that's okay, and then we'll move on to the question about the heating and cooling working group.
Sure. So, yes, we are considering, we know that the energy storage sector is not just batteries, it's much more than that. I think we also had a deep dive on long duration thermal storage as a possible solution. So we are considering also thermal storage. And yes, we are aware that different technologies, but also different maturity level of project require different type of financing. That's why, for instance, we focus more on blending, so grant plus debt financing for those projects that are more mature, more big infrastructure that at any rate require large, long-term capital. By contrast, you know, when we look at more innovative solution, so those that maybe are at a very low tier level, they have to grow. So early stage company, we focused more on the equity support, venture capital or private equity. So yes, it is in the radar, and for each financial instrument, we try to understand the impact on different technology and different level of TRL maturity. Thank you.
Thank you, Felice.
Yes, thank you for the comments, more than questions, and absolutely, I totally agree with you. In fact, I referred mainly to heat pumps because those are part of the latest discussions in the working group. But of course, we have been dealing on many solutions across the 1.5 year discussions. So it is true that all solutions for heat are valid, and especially for industrial heat, in which we could deal with many more solutions than the pure heat pump, which is good for a certain temperature for the industrial processes. For the low and medium temperature processes, but for high temperature processes, we need different things. And there are clear alternatives to the fuels, fossil fuels. So in terms of decarbonization of industry, it is necessary to afford all the solutions, all the technical solutions we could have. And for large-scale operations, of course, we will have a mix of heat pumps with many other things. We can have, even in countries in which there is no great use of geothermal, like Spain, we can use some geothermal and many other, and waste heat, etc., etc. And on the question of aggregation, of course, we can have in some large operations in industries large economies of scale and the possibility to introduce aggregated solutions for several industries, of course. But what I wanted to insist is that it is necessary to have a quick development and somehow easy products, simple for individuals to aggregate these small size operations. So this is a must do in this kind of business. In large scale, sometimes it is good, sometimes it's not necessary. That depends on the industry. But of course, your remarks were totally right in my view.
And indeed, maybe something we can explore further. Like I mentioned, we still have up to 55 working group meetings to go through, and maybe this is indeed a topic we can focus one of our future get-togethers on. And if anybody has suggestions for such topics as well, feel free to share these with us. Our email address is available on the website of the initiative, on the European Commission's website, and we can discuss them with the steering committee that's been organized with working group representatives, and put them on the agenda for the months to come. Now, I've seen a few more raised hands over there. The lady in the back, the gentleman, also one more in the middle. We still have, I think, 10 minutes, so I think we can take 2-3 more questions. Maybe, I think I saw first, sorry, on the right side already a raised hand, and then I'll move over to you. Thank you. Sorry, I missed you, sorry.
François Godet from EIB, Clean Tech Growth Finance Equity Division. My question is to Jan. In relation to demand response, it's an energy consumption tool, but also a solution or partial solution for distribution. Can you tell us a little bit more of what the working group has been doing on demand response, and if there's any pilot or solutions that are emerging? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question. I think I have to be honest here that demand response was not too much focus of our discussion at the moment. Demand response has a number of problems that are also on the technology side, but also on the side of. I mean, I understand that you're talking about flexibility schemes that are procured by grid operators, right? Is that correct? Okay, so what we've been looking at is energy sharing and energy communities as a solution. And here to energy sharing, we basically what I said before about the energy as a service companies, it applies the problem of getting a large enough portfolio, addressing the interest rates. Happy to share some more information. But with procuring flexibilities from grid operators, we face a lot more issues than that. There's also technology uncertainty. There's problems with communication with grid operators, lack of standards. It's really a huge debate. And then, of course, financing is one problem on top of that. But maybe we can, let's say, dissect the question a little bit further later on to understand better.
Thank you, Jan. Now, over there, the lady in the back for the next question.
Thank you. I'm Josephine van Beeselaar from the European Heat Pump Association. It's a question to Rodrigo. So as Rodrigo pointed out, a lot of the work that has been going on in the heating and cooling working group would provide input for this heat pump action plan that the Commission was supposed to publish in Q1 2024. But right before Christmas, they have announced that they postponed it until after the elections. Yeah, and we know after the elections, there's a lot of uncertainty, so that remains to be seen, so to say. But as we also heard in the first session this morning, policy clarity and consistency is really key to attract investments, and postponing such a plan is doing exactly the opposite of that and not providing consistency and clarity. So yeah, as also Rodrigo pointed out, also we call for a swift publication of this action plan, but maybe now more moving on to a question for Rodrigo. Have you discussed maybe already with the Commission on how the recommendations and the work you are doing in the working group would find concrete ways out, or how do you say it, if it's not directly in the heat pump action plan, other ways that this would be crystallized?
Josephine, thank you for your remarks and your question. In fact, we did all our work thinking on the Commission, trying to be useful, and precisely the last work which has been done and which is still ongoing was thought as a pilot to link to the heat pump action plan, or at least as far as we understood. So we keep on working together and trying to give this feedback. As you recall, first to attract investment, and not only investment, but just the awareness of whether one solution is good to go ahead or not, is regulatory stability, is what we have been reiterating during perhaps 3-4 sessions in the investors dialogue. So this is first regulatory stability, and the second one is trying to break the lack of awareness of certain technological solutions, which could be quite expensive from the side of the potential users and investors and users. So postponement of such a solution could be a harm, but I mean, let's try to have a better plan in the future with a more solid basis. And in any case, in our working group, we will still working and refining the pilot we have been working for.
Thank you, Rodrigo, for this response. Now, I still see a raised hand here in the middle, and one more over here. All right, and I think that would be all in terms of questions we can cover today. But of course, you're welcome to engage with our working group members also during the lunch break that will follow shortly.
Thank you. Harvey Chandler from the Global Infrastructure Investor Association. I represent about 100 investors and advisors to the sector. Yeah, I just wanted to pick up, Sofia, you mentioned about PPAs. We've had the electricity market design, and all the PPA kind of push within that is incredibly interesting. I just wondered whether you could expand on your point around offtake agreements, de-risking that, and creating alternatives to that kind of investment grade status, and your work around that instrument.
Oh.
Hello. Yes. Well, thank you for your question. Just to note that this is a discussion which is still going on, so we have not reached conclusions on all the items. But here the idea is to have a sort of a guarantee that would address the risk of default of the off-taker, okay? And we can think of a guarantee that would be deployed to the financial institution, if the financial institution is providing lending to the finance, or you could also think of a guarantee that would directly protect the generator from the risk of the off-taker default. Then, of course, let's imagine there is a default from the off-taker, what would happen? So basically what you would have to try to address, to cover, is the difference between the PPA price and the market price that if you want to sell that, that position into the market. So this is all around this. Of course, we also have to bear in mind that if we want to cover everything, the cost of the guarantee will go up. So you have to find the right balance on how then to target. And of course, as I mentioned before, it is also very important to look at where this is being deployed, because the country of deployment can have specific barriers. The type of off-takers may be different. And so it's sometimes you might also need to have a customized approach. That would be one of these. Another topic that we have been discussing is that indeed, if you really want to do these PPAs for smaller off-takers, much smaller, again, also a portfolio approach could also be considered. And then you would have to have more standardized type of PPA contracts to move forward. Okay, I hope this was okay, thank you.
Maybe just to add, we will look at summarizing the results of our discussion in the coming months, but maybe in the meantime, I can also direct you to the work that's been done by the European Investment Bank. They've published a couple of papers on also their ideas and thinking around the possibility for a PPA-based guarantee instrument and other technical assistance measures around creating or around capacity building or facilitating access to information on this. I think I saw, one more question over here to wrap up this session.
Thank you very much. My name is Pedro Guedes de Campos. I'm Director of Business Development for Hydrogen and Fuel Cells. Hydrogen and SAF. This was my previous role. Hydrogen and SAF for smart energy. And actually, the link to my previous role is that 7 years ago, we were discussing with the Innovation Fund on behalf of an European agency that was dealing with hydrogen and fuel cells, how to frame the Innovation Fund. And at some point, it became clear that hydrogen should be in all the pillars. Actually, there should be one single pillar for hydrogen, and it should be a cross pillar. And unfortunately today, I don't know if it is because of technology neutrality or not, but I see a lot of members or active voices here in this group speaking about all sorts of technologies. But I fear that maybe I missed it, but the only person that spoke about hydrogen was the representative for the European Commission, which actually makes sense because we are providing feedback to the European Commission, and that's the point of these working groups. So my suggestion would be, and actually it would be, I would urge you to work in all the working groups, across the working groups, because I see links in all of them, to address also the issues of hydrogen, because they increase complexity, but they also increase the impact of all these technologies that we are speaking about, and they enable the energy transition. So this is an urge to make you, to push you into working on hydrogen, because I'm still missing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sofia. Yeah, you want to react? Sure.
I would like just to react. Well, thank you. Indeed, just to give you the comfort that indeed hydrogen is also part of the discussions. And actually, we have as a plan to discuss a possible pilot scheme for hydrogen. Okay, so now we are discussing the PPAs, but in the agenda, the hydrogen is also there because we need to scale up, and it's not yet, I mean, it needs a lot of financing and it faces several barriers, and a possible dedicated instrument to hydrogen could be considered, even though we also have to consider the several other instruments which are already there, and so we do not want to overlap. But this has not yet been fully studied. Okay, thank you.
And maybe just to add, in our discussions on recommendations for new pilot schemes or improvement of existing instruments, we actually take a cross-working group approach, meaning that the discussions are open to all working group members, which is also facilitating this collaborative approach that takes into account the specificities of different segments of the value chain, which could be impacted by the introduction of financial instruments which are based on the recommendations on specific technologies or specific segments. Well, maybe I see one more hand, so I did say it was the last question, but maybe I can make an exception, and I apologize for cutting a little bit into the lunch break, but I think we'll still have plenty of time afterwards. So, last question.
Thank you, Wojciech Jurka from CEZ Utility Company. I have a simple question. Have you already discussed with the Commission the grid issues and permitting issues, or it's in the future scope? Thank you.
So maybe I can respond directly on behalf of Working Group 2, but the work on the grids action plan is upcoming very soon, in fact. So we hope that in the coming months or two, we will have a first chance to engage with the Commission around discussing the Working Group's input on this topic. Okay, all right. Well, thank you all for your question and your interest. And I think now we can take a lunch break. Please be back by 1:30 when we're going to relaunch our plenary session with a very exciting segment, which would be specifically on the financing more innovative aspects of the energy sector. We'll be talking about hydrogen as well. So feel free to rejoin us then and take part in the following discussions. Thank you so far, and see you at the lunch break.